Good job. Yeah. Oops. Whoops. Hey Ray, how's it going? Hi, sweetie. Here, can I help you? Finish this? Do you want to finish this? No. Focus on mommy. You don't want any more? You're all done with milkies? Yeah? Okay. Yeah, I'll get you a snack in a second. Hey everybody. Hello, hello. Where are you going? Where are you going, honey? You leaving town? She's leaving town. Morning, Isabella. Guess what? What? What are we guessing? I just got diagnosed with him. Oh, well, it happens to a lot of us. Hi. What are you doing? What are you doing, you silly Billy? Well, I'm glad you got diagnosed. It's good. Yeah, it does feel validating. That's right. That's right. That is right. I'm all right today. How are you? How's everyone doing? Everyone feeling good? Feeling fine? Anyone do anything interesting is anyone doing anything interesting this weekend, I guess is the way to say that phrase. We have a first birthday party to go to. Wow, big deal. Her first friend is turning 1 year old. Yeah, you are, huh? First friend is turning 1. Yeah, my friend had a child 1 month before me, so, you know. That's what's up. What are you standing? What are you doing? Why don't you sit right there? Yeah, you just sit right there. There we go. All right, is everyone... Yes, happy birthday to Mini Friend. Where are you going? Why are you all of a sudden going this way? Yeah. There you go. All right. I can't believe I know she's so big. She's going to be walking soon. It's crazy. It is crazy. It's definitely crazy. I need a spoon. I opted for my favorite spoon because it's so, oh, thank you, Isabella. That's so sweet. I love this spoon because it's rainbow, but also it's a good shape. I like it in general. It's a good spoon. Okay. Let's clean out our frother. Good, good, good. All right. How's everyone feeling about the reading so far? Good? Yeah? It is a pretty spoon. Morning, Jillian. Coffee for me. Oh. A bag of freeze-dried mangoes for my child. She is quietly enjoying playing with the bag that she cannot open. Yeah, I got no sugar whipped cream, which is so lucky for me. You never find that. It's like hardly ever in stock in our stores. She is contentedly playing with a sealed bag of dried mango. So we're just gonna let it happen. See how long we get out of this bag of mango. Hilarious. Who needs toys, am I right? She is absolutely an icon. It's just her freeze-dried mango snacks, and it's not even available to her to eat because it's not even open. But she's enjoying herself. The best toys are never toys. That's right. All right, where were we when we left off? My favorite thing about kids and cats is you can buy, yeah, she's just playing with whatever it takes. She's safely sitting in the corner of her playpen, not bothering anyone. So honestly, oh, hey, thank you for reminding me, Amanda, about this. Has anyone bought this before? Because I'm trying to figure out if this is the same squish as the cube I have. Everyone knows, you know, the cube I got from Slime OG. Does anyone know if this is the same type of squish? Because the nice cube is not the same type of squish, and I don't want that. I want the same squish as the green, but I have some friends who want some, and I was thinking of buying them for them for Christmas because they love my green cube, some of the girls in my writing group, and I wanted to gift them something because they like it when they're writing too. But if it's not the same squish, I don't want to get it. You know what I mean? Does anyone know? Has anyone tried this one? I genuinely don't know the answer, so I'm asking. Is it the same squish? It says it squishes, squeezes, and pulls, which is what mine does. But like, I don't know. I wanted to know if anyone had tried it. Anybody? No? Nobody's tried them? All right, so maybe I just have to bite the bullet and try it. I mean, it's not expensive. It's only $6, so like, if it's not right, it's not the end of the world. The blue cube and the pink cube are different firmness levels. I know, and I heard the green ones are all the same. So like, I was wondering if because this is a green splat, if it's the same as my green cube. You know, you're following my logic there? You can't see it, right, because you're in Canada. That's right. Well, if anyone knows, I'm open to hearing because I would very much like to get this for them as a gift, but only if it's correct. Isn't the blue the firmest? The blue is too firm. I don't know. Mine doesn't have a brand on it. I think mine is the unbranded kind. Hey, Naisa. So anyway, we are reading chapter 19 today, which is exciting. I think they have them at Five Below if you want to touch them in person. Oh, that's great to know. Hey, Tiffany. Well, there you go. That's fantastic knowledge. Thank you, Ray. I do want to do that. Yeah. She's rediscovered her cracker. The pink one was firmer than the blue one. Okay, so I stand corrected. See? The more you know. All right, let's read chapter 19, shall we? Chapter 19 is called At the Historical Society. Emma. They have a ton of neat I got from mini stockings. Hey, that's great. Yeah. Edith really came through in a clutch, huh? I asked Edward as we walked up to the entrance of the Astorian Historical Society. The building was located near Columbia Park along the river. It stood no taller than the structures around it, except for the Queen Anne style of design, which made the place stick out like a sore thumb. It was a beautiful sore thumb, but still no one talked about it. It should have been a stop on middle school field trips, learning about the history and culture of the northernmost point of the great state of Oregon, but instead, people just drove by it day after day. And even now, the planters on either side of the entrance were overgrown with weeds that no one had bothered to care for or landscape in a long while. Twice now. Edward pulled the door open and motioned for me to enter first. Don't know if Royal Rides would have had anyone to drive anywhere without her. Well, besides those initial 15 sign-ups. Her ladies group, he shook his head chuckling to himself. Well, they were certainly a hoot, eh? Edith was right. This place was big and mostly unused. Inside was a large museum-like entrance with large black and white photographs and newspaper copies in frames lining the wall. Placards hung below each explaining the visual above. And yet no one was anywhere to be found. She said that she'd meet us here, he shrugged when he saw me looking around the empty space. I left my umbrella in the holder by the front, not wanting to drip rainwater throughout, and I started to walk the circular photo tour around the large room. Key points in Astoria's history were highlighted, from its founding in 1811 by John Astor and the Pacific Fur Company to the filming of Goonies in 1985. There was a lot here, but no hide nor hair of Whitelock or anyone from Edward's family. Isn't it weird that there's no mention of you guys anywhere here? I asked, eyes glued to an old picture of the pier where Prescott's Pacific now lived. In its place was a photo of the Bumblebee Tuna Cannery, and out front were workers by the dozen, all probably just as smelly as my dad. For anyone who doesn't know, I'm sure Jen knows, the Bumblebee Tuna Cannery really was there on that pier in Astoria, which is why I put that in here, because that is true. It did used to live on that pier, and they do actually have this photo tour there, this little mini museum. In my book, I made it bigger, but there is like a little mini walking museum that you can go through and like learn all about the cannery and all that stuff from like, you know, Steinbeck times. Even though Steinbeck wrote about California, but that's neither here nor there. Astoria has a rich history. I heard a voice that I didn't recognize behind me, and I turned to see a white-haired woman who couldn't be more than 5 feet tall. Edith, I assume. Did you find the top to your bottle? Wow, that's so nice. I turned and walked to meet her halfway across the room, and Edward came from where he'd been standing and did the same. Nice to see you, Eddie. Yes, there is the storied history of Astoria, yes. Hi. Are you okay? Do you want to come up here with us? Maybe? You want to come up here? Yeah? I can bring you up here. Do you want to come here? You want up? You want to come? No, you don't want to come? You don't have to. I was just asking. It sounded like you did, but no, you don't. Okay, live your life. Live your life, kiddo. We have mango vanilla up here, just so you know. Good morning, Anya. I cringed when Edith, oh, sorry. Nice to see you, Eddie. I cringed when Edith referred to Edward as Eddie, having heard him correct many people on that nickname, but Edward made no move to correct the petite senior. Instead, he smiled at her, leaned down, and kissed her wrinkled cheek. Lovely to see you, Edith. It looked like he was greeting an old friend, or maybe his grandmother. If I didn't know that you were in a house full of love, I would have thought you were fighting. Oh, she's having a good time over there. Edward always spoke politely to the people around him, well, except for Keating and Belle, who showed up at the bar, but this was different. It was soft, almost loving. "And you must be Emma." She turned to me and reached out for a hug. "Oh," I laughed quietly, immediately enveloped in her arms. "Yeah, I am." "I knew your mother." She looked up at me with large and sad eyes. "Oh, live your best life." That's funny. "She was a wonderful lady." Edward mouthed, "Sorry," over Edith's head. I shrugged it off. I was used to people talking about my mom. Jane Prescott was the type of person that people remembered. She never made waves, but she always made friends and made a difference, or so I'm told. My memory of her involved general day-to-day mothering. She was attentive, loving, showed up for every spelling bee that I participated in, but after her passing, people seemed to want me to know that she was so much more than just my mother. "She ran this place like a tight ship." Edith laughed at the memory, looking all around. "Without her, we hardly do anything." "What do you mean?" Edward asked. "Used to hold events and seminars for the local students. People used to come from all over to learn the history of this place. Did you know that we're the oldest settlement west of the Rocky Mountains? 1811. That's history worth keeping alive. But now, she let her voice trail off. "No one seems to care about Astoria or our history. Even the other ladies of the society have given up. Truth be told, I haven't come here much in the last few years either. No reason to." "Edith," Edward touched the old woman's back gently to get her attention. "Do you have any idea why there's no mention of my family or Whitelock's acquisition of Astoria here?" He motioned around the room. She looked around, moving her whole body to scan the room rather than just her head. She moved slowly toward the wall, pointing ahead of her as she made her way in that direction. "Well, over here," Edith pointed toward a section of the wall, "you can see that just about 100 years ago we had the great 1922 fire of Astoria." Edward and I looked at one another and exchanged looks of confusion over the top of her white head. What did this have to do with Edward's question about his family? Not wanting to be rude, we stood there and we waited to see where she was headed with this. "Took a long while for them to rebuild everything." She shook her head, letting it hang a little, almost reverently. 2 people passed, and over 2,000 people lost their homes. Accounts recall it being very strange, since the fire started on a rainy, snowy day in December. She let her fingers trail the news article affixed to the wall. "How did it happen?" I asked, reading while I listened. Edith looked at me. "Really? Do you want up? You want to come up now? Now you want up? Yeah? You want to come here? You can. 1, 2, 3. There you go. Yay! 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 Big yay. Edith looked at me and then Edward and then back to the wall. "No one really knows. Some of these reports do suggest foul play." "Are you suggesting that any of my family's involvement in Astoria burned up in this 100-year-old fire?" Edward seemed confused. "Surely there must have been something left, some record in a building that wasn't involved in the fire. Emma and I saw a newspaper article at the archived library that chronicled my uncle's visit to share the Queen's proclamation." "I'm not saying I know anything about anything, but missing papers, some burned in an odd way in a fire, I'm just..." Sorry, wait, that must have been Emma that was supposed to read that. She said, "I'm not saying I know anything about anything, but missing papers, that some that were burned in an odd way, and a fire, I'm just trying to puzzle pieces together here. But Keating wasn't even alive in 1922. How could he have..." Edward looked me right in the eye, his eyes wide. "Perhaps it's not Keating. Perhaps we've been wrong all along. But we know that he suppressed the article. We know that he's playing puppet master with Jeremiah, and Lord knows what else he's doing. We absolutely know he's not using the city funds to fix anything." "I think you ought to talk to your father." Edward and I stopped and turned to look at Edith when she piped up. "My father?" we both asked at the same time, not sure who she was talking to. "Your father," she pointed at me. Rick might have some of your mom's old journals. That woman wrote down everything." "You know, that's actually a pretty good idea." I nodded after a few moments, pondering what she'd said. The thought that my mom might hold the key to something we were looking for was far too much to consider when we had so much work to do, so I mentally shook it off and smiled at the old lady.
But back to the matter at hand. Thank you so much for letting us see the space. Is it really possible for us to rent this for an event? She shrugged. Don't see why not. No one's been doing anything here for years. We got a little space in the back. She ambled slowly toward a set of double doors and opened them to a room that housed a small theater of sorts. Used to do presentations, class trips, and the like here. But it's unused now. Might work for the debate that you mentioned, Eddie. Quite right. He poked his head inside the room. Must hold at least a few hundred. 350, Edith answered. And the meet and greet? I asked. Could be out here. She turned to where we'd been viewing the photos moments before. Would be nice for the people of Astoria to be forced to stand in this room. Maybe they'll read about the history of their home while they wait for their turn with the prince here. She elbowed Edward with a wheezy chuckle. He smiled back at her. I doubt there'll be a line that long. And if there is, I'm sure they'll all be buried in their phones, I added. You two are a couple of gloomy gusses. You have to think positively. All right. Edward stood tall and cleared his throat. There will be a line out the door to meet me, and everyone will have forgotten their cellulars at home and will be forced to read the grand history of the seafaring tradesmen that came before them in this land. Both Edith and I laughed. And, with my finger held in the air, I added, they'll be so enraptured that they'll stay to hear the debate if Jeremiah Bell shows up. That's the spirit. Edith looked happier with our sensationalized version of the situation. And if Bell doesn't show up, all the better. We can just do a presentation on the history of Astoria. Why don't you tell them about your family during that time? Who would believe me without proof? Edward asked. Besides, we've got to get Emma talking about her plans to fix Astoria, or there's no chance we'll gain those last few votes to tip the scales. Too close to call. Edith shook her head, repeating what we'd all heard on TV a few nights before. Ain't that something? Hasn't been a tied vote for anything in Astoria since the mayoral race of 1922. 1922? If I remember correctly, Edith thought for a moment, walking over to one of the infographics hanging on the wall. Here, look, this guy. She tapped the photograph marked Miller Clarkson, mayor. This is the guy who won out in the end, but it was a tie initially. I wanted to say something, but instead I just looked over at Edward and tried to use some kind of untested telepathy to tell him that it was frickin' weird. It seemed to work because he nodded like he agreed. Say, Edith? She turned away from the photo and looked up at the man she was treating like her adopted grandson. Isn't it a bit strange? What? I cleared my throat, piping in. That the last time there was a tie was the same as the last time there was a fire? You don't really believe that could be a coincidence, do you? Never gave it much thought, to be honest, but now that you mention it, it is a little odd. Whoa. Weird. So, for anyone who doesn't know, there actually was, how would any of you know? There actually was a fire in Astoria in 1922. I took that information from real newspaper articles, and it really was in December, and it really was on a rainy and snowy day, and they really did say in the article that they never figured out how the fire was started, but some people did suspect foul play. But it was never figured out. There's like newspaper articles about it. And it's all kind of like, because like a fire just randomly starting on a really wet day in a really wet place. Like in California, we have random fires start all the time, but like not the Pacific Northwest. They don't just have fires just like pop up out of nowhere. It doesn't just happen, you know? And it really did burn down 2,000 homes, and 2 people really did lose their lives. So all that was true. Yeah. It was a weird situation. There's pictures of it too. Wild, right, honey? Almost 100 years before you were born. Can you believe that? 100 years before you were born. I love how you put the research in and sprinkled fact. Yeah. It definitely, I made up a lot of stuff because like obviously Whitelock doesn't exist and all that stuff. But if I ever mention like numbers and things like that, those are all real. Like the first printing press in Oregon really was in the year that I mentioned. You know, I made up a fake newspaper because I didn't want to get in trouble by using a real one. But that really was when the printing press came to Oregon, and it really was like 100 years after it had already been in Europe. That's why he's like, why are you all so behind the times? Because Oregon really was behind the times, you know. So anyway, that is all true. Well, at least according to the articles I've been able to find, it's true. I basically went on like that newspapers.com thing and just like looked at old newspaper articles and read through them. So in so much as they're real, it's real, you know. Obviously I can't account for the journalistic integrity of anybody else, but you know. Anyway, so this is called After the Meeting, Edward's Perspective. Are you thinking what I'm thinking? Emma asked as they left the dry haven that was the Asturian Historical Society and stepped back out into the rain. Even though she had her own umbrella in hand, Edward lifted his oversized one over the both of them. That Edith is a sweet lady, but she really does smell a touch like prunes. What? Sorry, he cleared his throat. Go on, what were you thinking? Do you want something else? You want your mango back? Emma pointed it back at the door that they just exited. The wheels had been turning in her head since the old woman told them about the fire of 1922. If what Edith's saying is true, I bet that Miller guy is the cause of the missing papers. I'm surprised because I was really so sure that Keating was at the center of this, but maybe it really just is an old man on a small town power trip. Doesn't make him any less of a plonker. A plonker? A jerk. No, it doesn't, Emma agreed. He's still an absolute jerkface that's been running our town into the ground for literal decades. Two things can be true at the same time. He can be thwarting my plans to save my family's generations-old business and also not be responsible for the missing papers and the reason why we don't know that we belong to Whitelock. You know, the more I think about it, the more it didn't even make sense for him to be the cause of that. It's not like he's been the mayor that long. Sure, he outserved local term limits, but your family's been in charge for over 200 years. He couldn't have been the one keeping that information from the people. It has to go deeper, and it's so much longer ago. Hey, Phoebe. Edward didn't look convinced. He just nodded the same, eyes scanning the nearby coastline blurred by the rain. Quite right. The silence between them felt heavy, awkward even. Hey, look, Emma touched his cheek to return his gaze to her. It doesn't mean that we stop fighting for this, and it doesn't mean that we're going to stop looking for answers. It's just a setback. We had one theory, and now we have to move in another direction. It's not even really a setback when we haven't found that much yet, right? It's just a... Emma's voice trailed off when she realized she was over-explaining again. Feels like we've come up against are brick walls. Maybe I should just call my father and have him come out here or something, or someone should come here, some kind of official proof. Emma lowered her voice to match Edward's change in mood. Is that what you want to do? You want to let him rescue you? Edward looked down at the girl standing in front of him in complete shock, so much so that his mouth fell open. Emma. He seemed hurt that she would say such a thing. Finish what you have and you can have more. When you're done with that one, I'll give you another one. One at a time. You don't want that one anymore? Yes, you do. Finish that one and you can have another one. Here. Here. There you go. Say thank you, Mommy. Emma bit her lip. She hadn't meant it to come out that way. She hadn't meant to hurt him, but the question was genuine. It hung in the air, his response unspoken. No, Christ, what a dog's dinner this turned out to be. He turned away from her, accidentally moving the umbrella off her head and exposing her to the rain. Bollocks. Sorry. He moved it back quickly, but the frown still played across his lips. No, I don't want to call Daddy to rescue me. He waggled his head a little as he said the last line in a sarcastic and mocking tone. But all of this is getting us nowhere. Yet, she added. What? It's getting us nowhere yet, but... She waved her arm toward the building they were standing outside of. If that Clark Kent guy or whatever his name was is responsible for the fire, maybe there were records somewhere else. Aw, thank you, Phoebe. That's so sweet of you. You realize how ridiculous that sounds, right? Now it was Emma's turn to look hurt. Hey, if there were records elsewhere, why would he have... Wait, sorry. If there were records elsewhere, why would he have bothered with the fire? If you're implying that this 100-year-old mayor person lit a fire in town and burned that many homes... Oh, no, sorry, this is Edward's... Sorry, I messed up. Let me try that again. We're going to back up. I got confused. You realize how ridiculous that sounds, right? Now it was Emma's turn to look hurt. If there were records elsewhere, why would he have bothered with the fire? If you're implying that this 100 years ago mayor person lit a fire in town and burned that many homes of historians just to erase my family's history, why on God's green earth would he risk there being a copy elsewhere? She simply shrugged. I don't know. I guess I assumed that if there was another copy somewhere that maybe he didn't know about it. I don't know, okay? You have to have no reason to put every idea down. We're just brainstorming here. Edward didn't know what to say, so he let the silence hang in the air. I'm going to have Mikey come to pick me up, he finally said after what felt like an hour-long staring contest that really couldn't have lasted more than 30 awkward seconds. Emma furrowed her brow. You don't want to come back to the bar and plan the event? It's not like we're swimming in time to get this thing up and running. Swimming? Edward scoffed. I'm drowning. She pulled her head back, shocked by the outburst from the usually even-keeled man before her. Edward, you're not. I am. I've been here for weeks with no progress. Do you see this? He pulled his phone out of his pocket and showed her all the missed calls from his mom, his dad, mom, dad, back and forth as he scanned down. They want an update. And what do I have to show for the time that I've spent here? Nothing but an extra large petrol bill for loads of fishermen driving some grannies around. Is that what Royal Rise was to you? She pressed her lips together, clearly bothered by his tone. Because if that's what it is, I'll pay you back for the money that the gas was for the guys. I thought that it was a boon for the town. I thought we were providing a service to the underprivileged community. I thought we were showing the people of a story that someone gave a crap about them and what happened to them. I thought we were all in this together. I know, crazy, right, honey? Yeah, you want more mango? You're gonna need more mango to get through this story, huh, honey? There you go, baby. You're being very good today, my angel. More mango. Take it. Take it. Yeah. Edward pressed a few fingers to the spot between his eyes. He growled to himself quietly, wanting so badly to walk away, but having no real way to tell her, hey, can you just use your own umbrella so I can have a moment of freedom? Hey, what's wrong, baby? You don't want the mango? Taste it. I think you want it. Instead, he just stood there, stewing in his frustration. I don't need the money for the petrol. It was just... I'm sorry, okay? I said it without thinking. No, that's not what Royal Rides was to me. I was just... Yeah, I know. It's amazing what a good night of rest can do, right? I know, my angel. Do you want more milk? You want milk? Maybe? You want maybe some milk? You want this? Yummies? Yummies. Yeah. Can you turn over here? Can you turn this way so it's easier for mommy to reach you? There you go. There you go, my angel. Yeah, you drink the milkies. Mommy will hold it for you. Very good. So yummy. So yummy milkies. And then he sighed, looking away from Emma. I just need a moment, all right? Fine. She shrugged and opened her umbrella with a pop. She held it above her head to block herself from the ever-increasing rain and stepped away. See you around. Don't let our plans get in your way. Emma. He reached for her, but she had made up her mind to get in the car. Like the rainy native land that she was from, like the rainy land native that she was, Emma expertly closed her umbrella and slid into the driver's seat of her car in one smooth motion, never exposing herself to the water. Edward stood in the same spot that she'd left him in, looking more dejected than ever as he watched her drive off. He told her that he was going to have Mikey pick him up, but the truth was he hadn't even asked him, so there he stood. Well, bloke, you really botched this one, didn't you? He said aloud to himself, kicking the puddle of water at his feet. What's the matter, Eddie? Bloody hell, Edward jumped, turning to see Edith standing behind him. Oh, Edith, I didn't see you there. Please do forgive my language. The older woman laughed and patted his damp arm. Oh, kiddo, at my age, I've heard it all. Don't sweat it. But where's your girlfriend? Girlfriend? Edith corrected herself when she heard his tone. Sorry, I assumed as much, but I guess not. Too bad, huh? Quite right, Edward caught himself saying, but he hadn't meant to. He hadn't even known that he'd thought it, but there it was, out in the open. The idea made him laugh a little. Hadn't thought of that, but I suppose, yes, it is too bad. But she is gone. Gone where? He shrugged. To the store, I assume. He puffed his cheeks up, trying to figure out how to explain what had just happened without disappointing Edith. I said some unkind things, and I told her that I had another ride home. Looking around, Edith motioned to the empty parking lot. Do you? Edward shook his head. That I do not. Edith sort of grunted, trying not to laugh. Little pickle you found yourself in, huh? Edward scrunched up his face, and a smile was threatening to break through. In a strange way, the teasing from this old woman had changed his mood and made him feel better, even if the joke was at his expense. "What about you, then?" he asked, motioning around the still empty parking lot. "How do you get around without a set of wheels?" "Bus," she shrugged. "Bus? What?" Edward looked shocked. "I should think that a lady such as yourself would have a more dignified way of getting around." "The bus isn't so bad, Eddie. Besides, it's what I've got. Isn't there someone who could give you a lift?" "No kids. Widowed 13 years. She shrugged again. "Town won't allow those newfangled car apps from the cellular phone. There's one cab company in town, and they—" Edward lifted a hand to stop her. "No, please, don't remind me about them." "So you've been in one of those ashtrays on wheels, huh?" No, never made it into the vehicle as their wait time is out of control. That's why the whole ride to the pole thing that you did was such a blessing. Us old ladies don't have an easy time getting around." He frowned, sighing. "Righto. Such a shame. Anyway," Edith waved it off, "do you want to come ride the bus with me?" He didn't. I mean, not really. The idea of taking public transportation made him grimace, but he couldn't just brush her off. Oh, come on, Eddie. Live a little." Edith really is a sweetheart when you come down to it. You know, she's kind of like the grandma you want to adopt, right? She's sweet. The next segment is called Prince on Tour, from Edward's perspective. When the bus pulled up to the stop where Edward was waiting with Edith, he was hesitant at first, but he helped the old woman by offering her a hand, making sure that the climb up the bus's metal stairs wasn't a difficult one. Watching her struggle made him wonder why they didn't have an easier way for someone her age to board. What if he hadn't been there? Would the driver have gotten out to assist her? He climbed in after her and watched her swipe her senior citizen card for a discounted rate. "It'll be $1," the driver said to Edward as he stepped up. "Oh, of course." Edward reached into his pocket and pulled out his wallet. He had American dollars on hand, but nothing smaller than a 20. He handed it to the driver, who shook his head and pointed to a sign that said, "Exact fare only. Drivers are not equipped with change." "Well, I suppose it's your tip for the day, then," Edward said with a nervous smile, hoping that the man would still let him ride. Whoa. It's okay to give the driver a tip. You don't have to be upset about that. Do you want this? You don't want this? Do you want more mango? Look at Mommy. Do you want more mango? Maybe? Right here? Do you want more mango? Yeah. Do you want more milk? You don't want more milk? Are you all done with the milk? Look at me, sweetheart. Are you all done? All done milk? All done? You look frustrated. Do you want a cup? Do you want some mango vanilla? Mango vanilla? You love mango vanilla. Give it a try. See what you think. Yeah, pretty yummy, huh? Yeah. Why are you flapping your arms as you're chewing? Chew like, chill so that it goes down right. The driver rolled his eyes and waved him on without taking the 20. Forget it. Edward pressed the matter. No, please, I insist you take it. It was never my intention to be a stowaway. The machine don't take 20s, he grumbled. For you, then? Edward asked, hopeful. The man snatched the 20 from Edward and shoved it, crumpled up, in his uniform breast pocket, and Edward walked on toward the seat next to Edith. She patted his leg and smiled. You're a good egg, Eddie. Not trying to cheat this already struggling town out of bus fare, he said with a tight-lipped half-smile. So where are we headed? Around. Edith motioned through the air with her frail hand, not bothering to get specific. Edward's eyes widened. Edith? He tried to sound concerned, even though a smile threatened to peek through. Are you kidnapping me? She elbowed him in the side. You betcha. Now look over here. Edith pointed out the window of the bus toward the pier that Edward had come to know a lot about over the last few weeks. That's the pier, of course, that your non-girlfriend is so concerned with. Righto, that's where her father owns the fish place. She nodded. Prescott's Pacific. Been on the pier as long as I can remember. Now, this over here, she pointed again as they drove on. This is the river walk. These all were things that Edward had seen already, so he just nodded. Yes, we passed through here during the umbrella parade. Edith looked at him like she was going to ask what the umbrella parade was, but quickly got distracted by the next landmark as the bus turned, continuing their Astorian journey. That over there was the Maritime Museum on the right. We're going downtown now. I'm sure you've been to some of the places there, but did you know that Astoria is the oldest settlement west of the Rocky Mountains? Edward bit at the inside of his lip to keep himself quiet. Edith had told Emma and him that factoid when they were inside the Historical Society not an hour before, but he cleared his throat, worried about the woman's faculties and how much time he was wasting on a bus seeing things that he'd already heard about. Quite an accomplishment, he said with a smile, deciding to soak it all in and not worry about a few hours of time. All these shops here are small businesses, mostly family-owned. She motioned from one to the next as the bus moved through, and it took a turn up a hill. Now we're getting somewhere. Do you see that building there? The old European-looking one, he asked. Queen Anne style. It's the Flavel House. She said the name like it meant something. 1885. They've still got a carriage house, too. The whole place is a museum now. It was like she had certain information memorized from years of giving tours at the Historical Society and could only repeat the things that had been seared into her memory. That's exactly 40 years after my family took control, Edward nodded matter-of-factly, wanting to slip his own information in to see if it would trigger something in her mind. It surprised him that someone who had been living in Astoria as long as she had no memory of Whitelockian control. Do you think there's any remnants of Whitelocks present in the museum there? She pondered for a moment and then shrugged. I truly don't know, but I also haven't been in there in years. Do you know what's strange? It's a well-known fact here in Astoria that the British occupied the place until 1846. Edward narrowed his eyes. A well-known fact? As well-known as history can be in a place like this. Why would the British have occupied Astoria until 1846 if the Queen gave it to my family in 1845? Eddie, Edith patted his leg. Do you really think people moved that quickly in the mid-1800s? Oh, look here. The bus turned another corner. That's the Oregon Film Museum. Got lots of famous movies that have been filmed up and around here. You should check it out. The young people love it. Don't think I've ever seen a movie filmed in this area. She'd somehow distracted him from the matter at hand. You'd probably be surprised. Kindergarten Cop? She asked, and Edward shook his head. Never heard of it. Got Arnold Schwarzenegger in it. He raised his eyebrow. The I'll Be Back guy. Mm-hmm, she nodded. How about Twilight? That one's big with the girls your age. He rolled his eyes with a smirk. Heard of it, yes. Mr. Holland's Opus? I think everyone's seen that one. Ah, yes, fantastic film. Anyway, these are some of our claims to fame. Are you trying to sell me on the value of Astoria through a film history lesson? Edward asked with a wink as the bus climbed the hill. Perhaps, Edith said with a shrug. We should get out here. She pulled the cord, signaling the bus driver to pull over at the next stop. Edward looked around, not recognizing this neighborhood. This isn't where your home is. Nope. She pushed herself up to standing, grabbing his arm as he offered to balance her. The two exited the bus with Edward shouting, "Thank you!" to the bus driver at the front, and Edith said nothing until they were on the sidewalk. Come on, she motioned up ahead. We're going to the Astoria column. Yeah, it's so yummy, right? Ahead was a hill that Edward wasn't sure Edith could make it up, but the woman was stronger than she looked, ambling her fragile body upward. Edward kept a hand near her back, not wanting to offend her by insinuating that she couldn't do this on her own, but it didn't stop him from worrying. As they climbed, Edith gave Edward a mini history lesson. The column was built in 1926 and has 164 steps to reach the top. Don't even think about asking if I'm going up there. If you're headed up those stairs, you're on your own, kiddo. The pair chuckled as she continued giving him tidbits of information. Say, did you know that Clark Gable started his career here? the Gone with the Wind guy?" Edward asked, and she nodded. "It was before I was born, but he performed in town here in 1922. My parents saw him on stage. Can you believe that?" "Wow." Edward crossed his arms over his chest. "They must have a lot of great stories." "Astoria was rowdy. It was a bustling place in its day. I'm not really sure where things went wrong or how we fell into such disrepair." Just so you guys know, that's also true about Clark Gable. I did not make that up. Edith was a little out of breath as they reached the top of the hill where the column stood. "There's still beauty here hidden under all the barnacles." "Oh, really? Hey, my angel. Hello." "Hi." "What's this? Is there a kitty? And a puppy? And Mirror Baby?" "She's there too." Edward took slow steps forward, stunned as he looked out at the view, amazed by what he saw. Are you imitating the fire truck? You think that's silly? What's Mommy doing? Is she being a silly goon? Do you want more mango vanilla? You want more? You want some more? Here. Bless you. Mango vanilla. Yummy. Below, the coastline stretched out as far as the eye could see. It was exquisite. Only as he walked to the cliff's edge could he see the scenic expanse that he didn't realize how clear the day had become. When he stood outside the Historical Society with Emma, the rain had dampened his mood, both literally and figuratively. Somewhere along the bus ride, it must have stopped, but Edward was so distracted by Edith that he didn't even notice. And yet, as he stood near the column, he could see, well, everything. Downtown, his hotel, the boats dotting the water, one of them probably holding his friend Mikey trying to catch the fish of the day. Of course, the pier was visible as well, even the area where he knew moonbeam mugs and read between the vines were. His mind wandered back to Emma, wondering if she was inside, selling books or pouring wine. Probably not wine, as it was barely noon, but he could imagine her in there recommending someone's next read, and that made him smile. Giving him time to himself to enjoy what he saw, Edith hung back. It also gave the old woman a chance to catch her breath after the long walk. But now she came up to where he was and rested a hand on his back. "It's really something, huh, kiddo?" He looked down at the petite woman and put an arm over her shoulder with a smile. "You certainly are something, Lady Millstone." "Psh!" She smacked his stomach lightly and growled. "Eddie, I told you to call me Edith." "Well, Edith, you've got a way of turning things around for people. I think this place and its people really do deserve a fighting chance. Thank you for bringing me here and showing me around your town." "Not my town." She waggled a finger at the much younger man, offering him a reminder. "Your town." "Our town." He smiled. "Our town." Aww, it's kind of cute, right? Aww, it's a little heartwarming. I forgot I wrote that. It's very sweet. Aww, they came to like lovey-dovey conclusion. Edith is a sweetheart. She made him like the place and see the beauty for what it is. And Milkies? Oh, so yummy. Yeah, wash everything down with a little Milkies between chapters. Delicious. Delicious. You want to hold it with 2 hands? No, you'd rather Mommy hold it? Okay. Chapter 20. Down at the pier. Edward. Edward made sure that Edith got home safely and then started walking. He didn't know where he was headed. He just wandered. The fact that the rain hadn't picked up again was a surprise, even to a newcomer like him. He enjoyed the clear view as he walked back down the hill from Edith's home toward the shore. He smiled to himself, able to hear Edith's voice in his head. The woman was like an encyclopedia of facts about Astoria. He imagined her hearing him marvel at the lack of rain and replying, "Eddie, did you know that the last year we had 28 days of rain in November alone? It was truly a wonder we're not waterlogged in the brain." It made him laugh as he followed the path down toward the shining shoreline, and he found himself at the edge of the famed Pier 2 that everyone talked about constantly. As he stood on the land edge of said pier, he ruminated on how surprising it was that he'd never been down there after everything that happened. Mikey hadn't shown it to him except in a drive-by in his truck. Edith pointed it out on the bus ride, but even Emma hadn't brought him to this location that she loved so much. With a spring in his step, Edward ambled across the rickety planks, bringing him down the pier to the building situated at the end. Along the inner wall, barely covered from the elements, was what looked to be a shrine of some sort. He moved closer to see what all the photos and signs were about, and the largest placards read, Astoria's Cannery Workers. Below it, Edward could see photos lined up of fishermen, cannery workers, preserved in black and white. One of the oldest professions of the Pacific Northwest. Edward turned around to see the voice behind him. An older man approached, pointing at the display. Canning was a huge part of Astorian life. Smell hasn't improved since these guys moved on, though. The man chuckled at his own joke. It's quite a storied history you all have here, Edward said. Yeah, who's that? Is that you? You see yourself on the wall? You were a baby. Is that baby? And mommy and daddy? And baby? Yeah, you were a bitty baby. So small. So small. Ah, the man pointed right at Edward, realization crossing his face the moment he heard the accent. You must be the prince. Are you clapping for yourself? Yeah, you look nice in those pictures, huh? You always look nice. Yeah, you want some more Milkies? You'd rather have this mango? You don't want the mango? That's surprising. Edward smiled. Indeed. What gave me away? Really? Are you sure about that? You are sure about that? Do you want out? Do you want to go back in the playpen? Are you all done here? You want to go over here? Here you go. Sit down. You want mommy to come in with you? Okay, mommy's coming. Sit down, honey. Mommy will come. Mommy will come with you. Yeah? Can you sit down for 1 second so mommy can get the phone? Whee! Hi, my beautiful angel. Do you want to sit down? You want to sit down? Yeah? What do you see, the plant? Okay. Mommy's coming too. Mommy's coming too. Sit down. Honey, mommy's coming too. Honey, there's no need to cry, sweetheart. I'm coming with you. Look. Honey, don't cry. Mommy's coming. You don't have to cry. See? Mommy's coming too. See? It's no sad. No sad. Mommy's coming too. Yeah. Here, look. I'm just going to put this right here. And mommy's going to sit right here. Look. All better. All better. Yeah. Hold on. Mommy's just going to lower this. Whoop. See how funny that was? All better. We're in here together. We're all in this together. Another High School Musical fan? Do you want to sit down with this? Yeah, okay. Edward smiled. Indeed, what gave me away? You don't like this scene? Because every time I read that line, you scream. Do you want this? Is your purse? Where's your phone? Where's your phone, honey? Can you get your phone? It's over there. Sweetheart, do you want to call somebody? Get your phone. It's over there. Or has my photo begun to make the rounds here in Oregon as well? Don't get many accents like yours round these parts, the man answered, reaching his hand toward Edward to officially greet him and introduce himself. Rick Prescott. Heard loads about you recently. Prescott. Edward shook the man's hand, pointing behind them to where he saw the sign for Prescott Specific. Emma's father. Rick nodded. Pleasure. You certainly have caused a stir around here, he said with a laugh. Surprised none of those hooligans brought you down here before. They're the busy sort, I suppose, Edward shrugged, turning back to the wall. Sorry, you said that canning was a huge part of Astorian life. Yep, canneries left, so we still got the fishing culture, but none of the factories work out of this area anymore. Oh, That's when this became more of a tourist destination. Rick pointed at the photo toward the center of the exhibit. This here is soon after the canneries closed in 1973. The mayor dictated the pier as a landmark for Astoria. Hey, Liv. Can't figure out why I recognize... Oh, sorry, I skipped something. Landmark for Astoria. Edward looked closer to the photo, recognizing the man cutting the ribbon. Huh. His brow knit together as he tried to pinpoint why he looked so familiar. I can't figure out why I recognize this man, Edward shrugged. He must just have one of those faces. Rick tapped the photo. This one? And Edward nodded. You may have seen another photo of him elsewhere. That there is Miller Clarkson, one of our former mayors. He did the dedication. Oh, righto. Edward snapped his fingers, remembering the photo that he and Emma had seen at the Historical Society with Edith. The guy with the fire. Come again? Rick asked. Apologies. No, he quickly brushed off this business about the fire, not wanting to confuse the man. Mayor from the early part of the last century? Edward offered. Now he sounded like Edith. Yep. And you want to know something even funnier than that? Funnier than heck? Boy, do I ever, Edward replied with a forced kind of chuckle. That right there with him, that kid is our current mayor. Would you believe it? It's almost like mayoring runs in that family. I thought we were American and we didn't do dynasties and all that. And here we find out we've got a prince, and the fact that one of the families was monopolizing the mayorship makes a little more sense, huh? Edward's head jerked to the man in front of him and then back to the photo. Sorry, did you say that that's your current mayor? Keating, is this boy here? He's that man's son? Well, grandson, but yeah, that's him. Maybe that's why Keating is no fan of mine. Fancied himself the Prince of Astoria all this time. Born into a family that ran the place for so long and all that. Edward was joking, but the more he thought about it, the more it kind of made sense. Well, I don't know a lot about a lot, but I'll tell you what. My wife, Jane, she really believed that Keating would do anything to maintain his family's hold on this place. Really? Edward tilted his head curiously, and Rick nodded. Bright lady. She was always reading the histories and keeping records and updating exhibits, and knew more than anyone else I've ever met. What? Oh. Who's that? Who's that? Is that Dada? Do you see him? Oh, there he is. Go get him. Rick nodded. Bright lady. She was always reading histories and keeping records and updating exhibits, knew more than anyone I've ever met. It was like she'd been brought up here even though she didn't move to Astoria till her 20s. Came here to be with you and raise Emma. Emma's father shook his head. Nah, librarian jobs weren't exactly plentiful. She got one downtown and we met here. The memory made him smile. And the rest is history, as they say, Edward said, trying not to jump in with too many questions about the man's dead wife, but curiosity had been piqued. You said she kept a lot of records. Yeah, I mean, that was her job, Rick shrugged. I think it's probably why it didn't faze me when Mikey and Emma came talking about you. How's that? Edward was confused. Well, the more I thought about it, the more I recognized your name. Well, your family's name. Well, since he has her now, I'm going to get out of the playpen. There's no reason for me to sit there to finish this chapter. All right, where was I? Over here in a chair like a human. In a chair like a human. You know about my family? Rick scratched at his cheek. Don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure Jane was doing some research into your family's involvement in a story. Now, look, I could be wrong, but if memory serves, she was looking for something or another for some anniversary event she was putting together, and I'm pretty sure she emailed someone over there across the pond. Now Edward was even more confused. Emma's mother was emailing with someone in Whitelock? I'm going to be frank with you, young man. I'm just not sure. Rick shrugged. I don't know. She was talking about it, but it's been so many years now, and my memory's shot. If she knew about Whitelock, why didn't anyone else in Astoria know about it? And Rick stood silently for a moment and then motioned for Edward to follow him. Come on, son. I've got a better idea than us men folks standing around speculating. Oh, here, do you want this Milky's? Would you like this Milky's? Wow, Milky's. Rick made his way back into Prescott's Pacific with Edward and moved behind the fish counter to grab his coat and keys from where they hung on the wall. You up for a walk? All I've done today is walk, Edward said, total hyperbole, but he had also ridden the bus with Edith. Still, there was no reason to bore Rick with the details of what brought him to the pier. After his third long walk of the day, Edward found himself standing outside the Prescott family home where Emma grew up. The place was a folk-style home, not too ornate, but well-kept. Rick motioned for Edward to follow him up the front steps and into the house. "You wait right here," he said, pointing to the living room. The older man traipsed up the stairs, and then Edward was alone. As he glanced around the room, two competing thoughts bounced in his mind. Wow, I can't believe this is the home where Emma grew up, and wow, it's so ordinary. But also, Emma's mother Jane knew about Whitelock and didn't tell anyone? The more he ruminated on the second thought, the more upset he became. Was Emma's mother not one of the good ones? Everyone spoke so highly of her, but... Edward's thoughts were jerked back to reality by Rick making his way down the stairs with a holler. "Okay." "Okay," Edward asked, and Rick plopped a few notebooks down on the coffee table. "One of these is bound to have some information in it. Some of these were some of her last. Woman wrote darn near everything somewhere. If she knew something, it would be in here. And if she didn't, then my guess is my old addled brain just made it up with a deja vu feeling." Edward took one and Rick took another, and both men flipped through. The pages had some to-do lists for Jane's job, some had notes on upcoming events for the historical society that she wished to hold. When he turned to the next page, though, a loose leaf piece of paper fell out of the notebook. He barely caught it and put it down and unfolded what appeared to be a printout of an email. To clerk@whitelock.isles. CC V. Keating at astoria.gov. From J. Prescott at Astoria Historical Society. Subject, replacement documents. Wow. To whom it may concern, my name is Jane Prescott, and I'm the head librarian at the City Hall Archives here in Astoria, Oregon. I also serve as president of the Astorian Historical Society. It's come to my attention that we're missing some key records pertaining to Whitelock's acquisition of Astoria in the year 1845. Although Astoria has since changed hands again and moved under the jurisdiction of the United States of America, we'd be ever so grateful if you could provide copies of the original proclamation by Queen Victoria for us to display in the coming years as we celebrate Astoria's 160th anniversary in 2005. Though we are a few years off, these things take time in a town as small as ours, and should we need to pay for the copies of the above documents, please let me know where to remit payment. Thank you in advance for your help and cooperation. Jane Prescott. To Jane Prescott. CC V. Keating from Clerk at Whitelock Isles. Replacement documents. Dear Miss Prescott, we here at the clerk's office of Whitelock were confused upon receipt of your missive. First and foremost, I assure you that Astoria has not changed hands from Whitelock to the United States, and although the American government has propositioned the king in an effort to purchase the land a number of times, no agreement has been come to. With that in mind, we would be happy to provide you with downloadable documents as well as additional physical copies by mail free of charge. We understand that your library has misplaced the initial proclamation brought to Astoria by the first Duke of Finsgate. It's disappointing to hear this, as it was a priceless piece of our shared history. However, if any additional pieces are missing, please let us know. We await your reply with the address where we may mail you the said documents. In the meantime, please let us know how we can assist you in the planning of your bicentennial celebration, as well as how we may assure the people of Astoria that they are still indeed Whitelockian citizens. In the name of the King, George Hoffman. Back at Prescott's, Edward. Edward stared at the paper in his hand, mouth slack, jaw open, his eyes scanning and rescanning the words. Something useful? Rick asked. I should say. Mr. Prescott, have you read this? Emma's father shook his head. Son, if I took the time to read through every journal and every paper that my late wife left behind, I would never be doing anything else. Edward handed the paper over, waiting to see the man's reaction, but unlike Edward, Rick didn't look that surprised. He just shrugged. Yep, sounds about right. I told you she knew all about the goings-on. Then why didn't you tell people about Whitelock? Edward wasn't being accusatory, but he was confused. If your wife knew about us, if you... Rick grimaced. Honestly, I was only half listening most of the time when she talked about work. I'm embarrassed to say it now that we're without her, but it is the truth. She had so many events and historical happenings to tell Emma and me about, on and on and on. Look, I love my wife, son, but don't take this the wrong way. How can one man keep up with all that? He chuckled quietly. I told you when Mikey came in and mentioned you, I said it sounded right. I told Emma early on that you were probably legitimate, though I didn't remember any of this. And with that, he handed the paper back to Edward. Do you think I could make a copy of this? If you think it'll be helpful to you, that's fine. But I don't have a copy machine here in the house. No, of course not. No. Edward smiled. May I borrow this? I would really like to show it to Emma. Rick nodded as Edward stood. Speaking of Emma, the man's voice trailed off. What are your intentions with my girl, anyway? You can't tell me that you're planning to sweep her off her feet and drag her back to your island, are you? Mr. Prescott, Edward looked down at the man who was still sitting before him. Do you really think she'd allow that, even if I wanted to? And then Rick laughed. No, I suppose not. All right then, you take that paper. Edward smiled. I'm going to use these for 2 reasons. Oh? I'm absolutely going to use your wife's research and findings as a way to show that Keating absolutely did have knowledge of us. Edward hit the page with a smack. He CC'd right bloody here, excuse my language. But first, I'm going to use this to smooth things over with your daughter. Things are getting crazy in the Astoria. Hi, my angel. Is that so yummy? Mmm. All right. How do we all feel about today's reading? Do we feel like we've made progress? Edward's making progress, I think, right?
The man's a progress machine.
I don't know about all that. You totally missed Edith showing him around town.
Oh, sad.
Yeah, it's a sweet moment. Yeah. Are you just going to stand there and hold it in your mouth? You're not going to eat it?
It's my piece.
No, I know. She was just but not moving her jaw at all. It is pretty cute. Hi, baby. Thank you for waving at me, my angel. All right. Well, we are going to go because someone needs to eat breakfast before we go to class. And then we will see you all tomorrow. Super sad that this is where we ended today. The romantic in me is like, oh, I know. It's about to get into all the very sweet moments. Yes, it was a very slow burn in this one, right? But we have more tomorrow. Don't worry. There's always more. And we'll see if Edward can smooth things over with Emma. Who knows? Will it work? I don't know. All right. Bye, guys.